Hello, everyone. I'm CJ Miller. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana, across the Red River from beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. And always come check us out. We just had a jazz festival the other night on the Red River. I was recovering from a weekend in Dallas and doing some running around and prepping and everything, or debriefing, not really prepping. Prepping is what you do before you go on the trip. Anyway, we spent a day over in Dallas, a day and a night, and everything came back. And so it's like I had things to do. So I didn't make that festival, but there is always something going on, especially spring throughout the fall in Shreveport, Louisiana. There's always something. So, I want to invite you to come check us out. What's in the pan here is a dough for, it's a biscuit recipe, basically, at its core. Simple ratio for a biscuit is per biscuit, you want an equal, you want a self-rising recipe. So self-rising flour. Now, if you don't have self-rising, you can add a tablespoon of baking powder. You can add 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda and just a pinch of salt, like maybe uh, a sixth of a teaspoon of salt. So if you want to turn your all-purpose flour into some self-rising flour, that would work. So you would use basically, and this is, there's other ratios that work fine too, but you want to add, like I said, a good tablespoon of baking powder, 1/4 of a tablespoon of baking soda, and about a sixth of a tablespoon of salt to add leavening agents. And of course, it depends upon the type of baking powder that you use. There are double leavening baking powders. There are some that have like aluminum type base, and there are some that don't. What you want to do is you want to be aware and don't be afraid to. You don't want to consume raw dough, but you maybe want to taste the consistency. You make sure that you're not making it too salty, too that, or whatever. But this was made with an already good blend of it was gold medal. I like that brand, but I'm not getting paid to say that or anything. I don't do that. But and I just eyeballed it. I poured it into uh, a large mixing bowl, and basically self-rising flour. And then to that, you want to add a half, a half of that. I mean, to one half of the ratio of the powder, you want to add um, moisture. Water can work. I prefer milk. I think most biscuit recipes or whatever will prefer milk, but in the absence of milk, you can use water. You could use sour cream if you had, or something like that, or some sort of creme fraiche or something, but you don't want it overly sweetened. So beware of any sort of substitutions that you make in that. And then the third part of the ratio is uh, so we have one part of the self-rising flour, 1/2 part of the milk, and 1/4 part per biscuit or whatever is you want to use some sort of oil or fat or something like that. Now, there's a trick that I love, and you will find this in many, many home cooking cookbooks, old fashioned cookbooks or whatever. Just a tip that's been passed around. It's kind of like a no fail biscuit or anything like that. With butters and margarines and everything like that, you have to melt them. Oils sometimes are not thick enough, or they get, you have to work with that a lot. Something that can happen, and it will add like just a little bit of a bonus because it adds just a touch of an egg, because it's a whipped egg based. Is that if you take a mayonnaise and use that in place of your oil, because that is typically uh, per, I want to say per 12 ounces or 16 ounces, or whatever. It depends upon how much you aerate. But it's an egg that's been aerated with oils and then some other kind of spices. So you get a little bonus flavor in there also. So sometimes that's what I did here. I took the mayonnaise instead of uh, chipping the butter, which, what I say by chipping the butter is like taking a hard stick of butter, practically frozen, and chopping it into bits and then mixing it. You can do that. But then I've taken this and instead of rolling them out and cutting them, I used a drop biscuit former. You take your biscuit, ball it, and just kind of drop it on a greased pan. But I'm using a nonstick that also I have oiled. I know it's nonstick, but come on. If something's going to stick or run, it'll be me. And I put it in this muffin pan. Now, what I did here, I feel like I did about, I eyeballed it, so I didn't really measure. When you get really, really good at this, you won't really have to measure, but you can. But I used about 3 cups of flour, about a cup and a half of the milk, and then, I guess that would leave maybe approximately 3/4 of a mayo or whatever. And then to that, you stir it. And then, of course, it depends upon how much moisture is in your air, your whatever, just how you get the feel of it, the type of dough that you like to work with, whether it be a little bit more moist or a little bit less or whatever. You could have it a little thinner for something like this. I like a thick biscuit. I'm going to get a lot of rise out of this when this goes into the oven at 350 until it's done, until you insert a toothpick and it comes out clean, probably right around 20 minutes. But you're going to have to watch it. These are not laid out flat. They're in muffin tins, so dinner muffins basically. And also what I did was I added granulated garlic, just chopped garlic, to this, and then I also used a shredded cheese blend, a shredded Colby cheese, which is really, really good. Something maybe you would sprinkle over a taco or something like that, but not if you can use a Mexican blend. I was going to say don't do that if it comes out too spicy, but if you want that, you can. And then two. Just add a little something to the top of it. I'm going to take a Italian seasoning blend, basically. It has a little bit of all the herbs on it. This one, marjoram, oregano, thyme, rosemary, savory, uh, basil, and sage. And basically, I'm just going to sprinkle some, on top of the biscuit for some, flair. And then I'm going to let it rest here until I'm ready to move on. And then, of course, I'm having people over. A couple of friends of mine, and we're doing a late dinner for his work schedule and everything. So we're going to have a course of, some sausages and munchies and stuff like that people have while I'm finishing up the main course, which is going to be a fried chicken and fried potatoes, russet potatoes. And then, of course, these will be served throughout. And then, of course, I've got just a store-bought ice cream for dessert. But yeah, so basically a 3-course thing, So, yeah. So I'm going to put the phone on pause. I'll come back as I'm working throughout the evening on the meal, and we'll see where we're at. I've got some tips on some fried chicken, but I'm not going to give you my spice blend on the one that's coming out because it's kind of a secret. I've got secret touches that I don't tell people. Even if I'm not a professional cook anymore, the whole world does not need to know everything. Everybody's entitled to their private corners. And here we are with that seasoning all the way on here. So now what I'm going to do, like I said, is let this rest here until I'm ready to move on. And we are going to be having a late meal. So this meal will post probably, we'll be eating around 8:30 in the evening, going on to 9, and that's for the work schedule. So I'll post the video after, so. And if I'm going to do all this cooking, if I'm going to heat the house up, I'm going to heat it up. I'm going to make use of the heat that I'm heating up because I'm going to let cook enough that I don't have to worry about it tomorrow, possibly the next day. That's how I roll. Hang tight. All right, and here I have some russet potatoes. These russet potatoes, there's about 2 large russet potatoes sitting in this water, chopped to maybe an inch or so, give or take, just eyeball. If you have you know, a hash, you can send it through a hash and push them down. I just kind of like a little bit thicker of a fry, but you can cut them smaller if you want that shoestring effect or something close to it. But thing is, when I go through the trouble of doing a home cooked meal, a kind of a, no matter how rustic, it's still an effort. And I like people to know, hey, this was not processed for the most part. Some of, like I said, some of the seasonings are processed. They're not super fresh out of an herb garden. But yeah, when I go through the cooking, when I'm cooking, and I'm cooking essentially from scratch. Like the biscuits were pretty simple. I knew that. I put these together, and what we're going to do is I've had a lot of therapy, which is why I say we instead of me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these, put them in oil, then I'm going to turn the oil on, and then I'm going to watch them until they come up until they're done. And the thing about this is you not to overcrowd the pan, and then let them go as long as they can without really burning, and you can get a good crispiness while still maintaining a moist fry on the inside. But industrially, sometimes what you want to do is you want to do a two-step, whereas you take the fries and you fry them in the oil on a lower temperature until they're tender, and then you bring them out, you let them cool until you're ready, and then you just drop them in really, really hot temperature and they get that super golden crispiness or whatever. But that's one way to do it, but you can simply uncomplicate it. And what you want to do is you want to watch your oil. Now I'm going to have two hot pans of oil going at the same time, one for the potatoes and then one for the chicken. And the chicken, it's going to be leg quarters. I love that, very flavorful leg quarters. I'm going to leave them in the quarters for the most part. I'm going to, I could cut them and everything, but I think I want to do a nice presentation of just serving these out to the guests. And that way, one should be sufficient, but there will be extra. I'm going to pretty much cook as many as I can get, as much as my oil for the night will allow. So, going to, oh, God, my God, I'm going to take, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do with the chicken when I'm ready. But anyway, you can chop your potatoes up such as this and leave it covered completely in cool water until you're ready to use them, and that way they will not turn or they won't brown. Because you don't want that. All right, so I have a lot of things laid out. I have some chicken quarters. This is a seasoned all-purpose flour, and so look, got some onion, garlic, little this and that. Heavy on the Italian seasoning and the aromatic powders. That onion and garlic or whatever. This is going to be the essence of the flavor. Now, this is what I'm not going to mention as far as the blend goes, because frankly, it's a few blends that I do like, and then I have found that if I blended them together in a certain combination, it comes up with a really spicy, savory flavor that I like. So, but any sort of cayenne based or red pepper based seasoning would go, but you do want it balanced. Sometimes a balance of a sweetness means that you add a balance to the spice means that you add a little salt or MSG. I use MSG most of the times instead of salt. The one area in which there's some salt in this blend, and then in the wash, this is 6 eggs, which I've poured an equivalent amount of milk, just whole milk, and added some seasonings. And to this, I used salt in the base instead of an MSG, a monosodium glutamate, which is a salt substitute for those of us watching. But we still get to reduce our salt, even though there's salt in this recipe. Okay, first things first. Take the chicken. I'm going to lay it out here. You can see what I'm doing. I want to give a very liberal sprinkling. And if you do this early, you just kind of rub it. Give it a good rub. I said sprinkling. You're really going to have to touch and rub. Gonna have to. If you're squeamish about food, sorry. So make sure that if you want to use some of this on the table, that you set some aside. I'm actually going to be not doing too much of that. It's going to go into the cooked versus. So I'm going to do this, and then basically what's left over, I'm going to dump into the flour, which is going to be what we coat it with. So I'm going to set, and I've got 6 of these. I've got 3 people coming tonight. I feel that 6 of these, as large as they are, is going to be more than enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep these for frying. So I'm going to take this, pat it down. If some gets on this little tray, this is the cookie sheet that I use for savory cooking. I keep one that I use for desserts. I don't do desserts. I don't cook desserts too often, except for holidays or whatever for myself. I'm not going to cook desserts for myself. I do have a store-bought ice cream that's a wonderful chocolatey blend. When it comes to ice cream, I love creative flavors, but I do love a chocolate base on that. So, so get it good and coated. And the reason why I do this, and this is very kind of a spicy. This is a spiciness, and to it, I've added this and that in my own favorites. What's going to happen is that you're going to get a powerhouse of flavor, but you're going to lose some of this in the dipping, the various dipping, because we're going to take this and dip it into the flour and then give it a wash, and then we dip it until it clings like we want, and then we're going to take it, and the grease, the oil, the vegetable oil that I'm using, you can use any sort of lard or anything. Don't use butter. You can use, back in the day, there was Crisco had a butter flavored Crisco. And I never tried it, but I always wanted to. Butter flavored Crisco. But it was more like basically a big tub of margarine, basically, I felt like, or whatever. I don't know. I remember that country singer Loretta Lynn kind of did that, the commercials for it. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me bread one of these for you. Hang on. When you're breading like this, make sure your hands are very clean. You're just going to go ahead and touch your food, as you see that I touch my food a lot when I'm doing this. So from here, from the pan where we've pre-seasoned into this very, workable all-purpose flour that's been seasoned. Now you can use, if you want, and I've done it, a self-rising flour. You're going to get a lot of crispness, or crispiness, whatever. You can conjugate either way. I'll look it up later, which is proper. But yeah. And then if you wanted to, I've got some, I didn't use any because I'll use some in a gravy or something. I've got some cornstarch. That can work. I think that works better for like smaller pieces. When you want a little bit more control. What I'm going to do here is, I'm going to end up having to seriously clean this table while I'm preparing meals. I want to take this, dip it. Always have enough ingredients when you're doing this that if you need to make more dip, you can. But I think just a light dipping here. And then set it aside right there. So I'm going to finish doing these pieces, and then I'm going to take them over to the oil, the very hot oil, and fry them. One of the things I have going, because I'm going to do a 3-course, is the first course I've decided to do, serve biscuits throughout the meal. But I did decide to use a yellow rice, sort of a onion-based, real butter added to this at the end for like flavors and everything. I don't want to add it during the cooking because I don't want it to make the rice soggy. But lots of saffron type flavors. And you can buy a blend if you want. I did. I always add to my blends, but not. And then I have this an andouille sausage for the spiciness would be great. But here in Shreveport, we are fond of a brand called Down Home Sausage. We just love it here. If you go down South Louisiana, they're going to say andouille, and in a lot of cases, I would go for that. I would go for the andouille, but also down home sausage is so wonderful. If you have it nearby, great. If not, you can order it. This down home sausage is as good as any that you'll find anywhere in the world. I promise you. Uh, and what I'm going to do is maybe just to kind of slice it uh, into servable sizes and lay it right on top of this rice. It's going to make a beautiful presentation for a first course. Uh, and then, of course, that's just really to keep people occupied. I have just two guests, but sometimes more. You never know. Uh, Although in this case, it's just going to be the three of us. But then I'm going to do those quarters once this oil heats up. Uh, right here, once this oil heats up, and I want it popping and sizzling. This oil for your frying has to be really, really hot. And then once you get that crispiness on the chicken, then you turn it down and you just kind of monitor your oil, the temperature of your oil as it's cooking. But in this case, I want it to cook throughout, and I want it to get good and crispy. I've reserved some of the flour back behind me in case something goes awry and I end up with a bald spot on the chicken that I don't want, from handling the chicken. The secret to a good fried chicken is not to handle it too much once it's breaded. You get it into the oil. I should be able to do about 2 pieces at a time, so I should do 3 batches of chicken should get this going. Now you can, with the fried chicken, some recipes recommend that you get the crust and then remove it and then cover it and get it into an oven and finish it off that way. You can do it that way, but these are going to be something that I'm going to want to do. Basically just get it, into this oil and cook it until it's done, then take it out, drain it, it's ready to go. And then, of course, I have fried potatoes with this second course. And so I'll be checking in as these things get done. Oh, and you may notice that I'm using a mismatch lid, and sometimes I do. And the reason why, I love the depth of this Gotham steel pot. The Gotham steel that goes to fit this lid actually is a little bit shorter. It's a little bit more narrow, and I want the depth. And I'm using the lid that goes with this other set of cookware. And this was, I think it was Rachel Ray who put this out. And I just happened to have it. I didn't specifically think, oh, Rachel Ray. I just literally got it. But the reason why is it's got this handle here that's covered in this rubber made kind of stuff, this rubber foamy kind of thing, so it's easy to lift, whereas the Gotham steel lid has a metal, which is still, it's okay, but it's sometimes a little warm to the touch. I've not burned myself yet, but I'm going to be working with this for a couple of hours. The potential for burn, if I just reach over and grab the lid real quick, no. So I like this. So that's why I'm using swapping the lids out, and it fits very well on this. So there we go. As I am preparing to begin, you see what I'm talking about, the handling? You will lose a little breading where you handle the chicken. But what's going to happen is each piece is going to go back into the flour, and then I'm going to drop it into the oil, which is now ready. 2 pieces, and as you're working with this second dredging, you see how fast it's crisping up from the heat of the chicken, but it's going to be very spicy too. So if you need to, from the second dredging, if you need to just add a little bit more flour, all-purpose flour, to the bowl that you're doing that second dredging with, that you don't want to add more flavor or seasoning, it's okay. Most of the flavor is already in there from that first dredging and the first dipping. And as you see, when I did that, I did a real quick dip and drip. I didn't let it sit in that egg batter this time because I didn't want too much of that seasoned flour to be washed away, But yeah, let's cover it and give it a few minutes, and then we'll separate them in the pan so they'll cook independently of each other. So this is the chicken that I'm laying out to dry, and it's kind of like a kind of like what you would think of as well, Kentucky Fried Chicken, an original texture, not like super crunchy, but that softer bit or whatever. It's kind of like that. That's basically I do that because I don't have a high pressure cooker at home. Sometimes I can really manage when I've got a lot more time to cook in smaller batches, and also when I want to reduce the amount of seasoning and herb within the chicken, within the breading and on the chicken itself, because that itself does uh, determine a little bit of the texture of the breading that's on the outside of the chicken. But I'm telling you, this is very delicious, and this is pretty. It's not a copy of what we say the Colonel's original recipe or anything like that. But this does have uh, oh my god, some heat to it. It's spicier than the KFC recipe. If you were going to compare this, maybe you would compare it to a combination or a split. If you were to take the qualities of the KFC original chicken and the qualities of, say, a Popeyes chicken, that spiciness of a Popeyes chicken, and combine them together, uh, that's you're somewhere in the middle of the road. But I'm only mentioning those because people are familiar with the franchises. There are so many different ways to do this chicken, uh, and I've done various recipes. I've got my biscuits in the oven. I've got two more pieces in the oil. You have to watch the oil when you're doing like multiple batches in kind of a medium stock. I wish I just had like a high pressure uh, you know, industrial fryolator. That would work, or a Frymaster. Either one of those brands are great. Uh, but I've also got the potatoes in the oil, uh, and then what I like to do is I use these soda crates, these cardboard soda crates, and align them with absorbent materials, papers or whatever, and that's what I do my draining on. And that way, at the end of it, I can just throw when we're finished and I put the food away and everything. I can just take these, just throw this whole thing away. You know, uh, love that. Love to be able to do that. Learn that in a restaurant that I worked at. Okay, I'm going to come back. And we'll work a little bit more. Oh, let me show you. Hang on. So for a nice rustic look, and what I love about rustic food that looks kind of like rustically put together, just kind of like just put together, almost last minute wise, or and not. It's a very informal way of preparing food. What I love about it is that it says be comfortable. You don't have to be careful with your food. Sometimes a more uh, formal looking uh, situation, or more formal looking meals say, oh, you've got to be a little bit dainty as you're eating the food. You want to preserve the art of it all throughout the meal, whatever. And it's from the most wonderful uh, things, from the most wonderful cuisines, they're going to get like mashed up and just massacred on your plate. So I don't mind that. This is great. The texture of the rice is just perfect. I love how this stuff works. It's good saffron rice, yellow saffron rice, and then the sausages. Here for flavor, in case it's needed, in the sausage pan, I've taken the pan drippings from that sausage, very flavorful, and then added half a stick of margarine. Imperial margarine is the brand that I used this time, but I have no specific. But if you didn't have margarine, you could use half a measurement of butter and blended it with a half measure of oil, and you'll get some consistency that's similar to a margarine. What you don't want is you don't want a straight up pure butter. Will burn, uh, you know. But and then uh, I used the maybe a fistful of that white flour that I used from the chicken that has a lot of the flavors and seasonings in it. Basically, after the roux came up to a light brown, a blonde, I should say, then I put the milk in, poured some milk, whole milk, And this is going to give us a milk gravy that we can use with those biscuits. And can sort of temper some of the spiciness of the chicken, which is a very zesty, zippy Italian flavor blend, but married with a Cajun spice. This is a very spicy chicken. So, uh, and then, of course, we have our potatoes going in the back. I hope we can see here how the light brown of these fries, these Fritas, these fried potatoes are coming across. And the reason why is because I never really know how it's going to read. The screen that I'm making my videos with, the handheld device that I'm using, has been cracked and broken for a while. I'll have another one tomorrow is being delivered, and I'll be able to see a little bit better what I'm doing. That's one of the reasons my videos have been uh, less frequent in the last several weeks. Now, if you want to salt and pepper your fries, you can. I'm older. Mm. Very, very, almost a mashed potato type texture on that inside. Mm. Got to taste your fry if you're a cook. Okay, and here we are with this pile of muffins, biscuits really, that I made in a muffin tin. Uh, and it's great. There's a dozen of them, minus one, sans one, I should say. And but the reason why is because I didn't like the way it looked when it came out. It crumbled a little bit. Sometimes they crumble. That's why if you're going to do a biscuit, if you could do something like this that you lift out of a pan, any sort of, make enough that if you lose one or two, uh, it's not going to, none of your guests are going to feel shorted or whatever. Fortunately, there's only two of us. Some of these will be breakfast for the next few days. Very garlicky and buttery in flavor. But of course, that is what this milk gravy, we call here in the South, is here. It's one of the base of this is one of the base five French sauces in French cooking, and one is a white sauce with the cream or milk, you should say. Uh, and this would be that plainly, just butter, flour, milk, and then I added the various seasonings. Basically, the seasoning that got added were the combination of seasonings from my cooking that were in my flour, and I used some of that flour. So there we go. Oh, and of course, the flavors of the sausages that I cooked. And of course, just in time, my guests will be arriving within minutes. I have the white gravy, the saffron rice and sausage, rustic cuts, rustic fries, wonderful, wonderful, delicious uh, muffins, biscuit muffins, very rustic, breaded, but it's a soft breading, but a very powerhouse of flavor. And there's Italian uh, and spicy. So I'm going to say an Italian spice breading on this. Uh, because it is shallow fried, it's gets a little bit darker than say a traditional, just straight. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's a little bit of the egg and the milk in there also. But yeah, it's great powerhouse flavor, and this works because it's kind of like if you want more flavor, eat all the breading. If you want less flavor, you could peel some of the breading away. Whatever, it's great. I am addicted to powerhouse flavors. Uh, it's not really something that people who have like a very delicate childlike palate, where they don't like, this is not, you would want to do maybe some chicken fingers or something for children, if you're going to have uh, that. But this is, yeah, it's cool. And so now uh, they got this set, and then what very rustically what I've got is I've just got some dishes setting out and some forks laying out and some cups, just kind of like haphazardly across the table. And people are just going to like grab what they need to fix themselves some victuals, as we say in the South. I don't really say uh, victuals. Sometimes I'll say fiddle when I mean violin, but whatever. Shut up. Love and light. Bon appetit. Peace. And good night.